Today, we're diving deep into the Gospel of Mark, exploring a really fascinating question based on an analysis by Happy Akande. We often hear about Mark's Jesus as the suffering servant, but what if there's another identity, just as powerful, kind of hiding in plain sight? What if he's also being shown as the divine Lord of glory? Let's take a look. So if you've ever read the Gospel of Mark, it just gets right to it. There's no messing around. It's fast-paced, it's punchy, and it's all about what Jesus did. It spends a lot less time on long speeches, which is exactly why it earned the nickname the Action Gospel. And the most common way to read this gospel, the one we're probably all familiar with, is that Mark's number one goal is to present Jesus as this humble, suffering servant, the one who came to serve and give his life for others. And that is a powerful and absolutely central theme, no doubt about it. But, and this is the big question the analysis we're looking at asks, is that the whole story? Or is this action-packed gospel also carefully and systematically building a case for something much bigger? For Jesus as the Lord of glory, as God himself? That's the puzzle we're going to try and piece together. So let's start with this idea of the servant king. The analysis we're drawing from argues that right from the get-go, Mark is dropping clues that this is no ordinary servant. And the first big pile of evidence is all about authority. And we're not just talking about the authority to teach, but an authority that seems to belong only to the Creator. This happens almost immediately. In chapter 2, Jesus looks at a paralyzed man and says, "Your sins are forgiven." And this causes a total uproar. The reaction of the religious leaders is everything. They ask, who can forgive sins but God alone? And that question isn't just a challenge, it perfectly frames the entire debate. Jesus essentially agrees with them, and then heals the man to prove that he has the very authority they just said belongs to God alone. Well, the stakes get even higher in chapter 4. We see the disciples, and remember, a lot of these guys are seasoned fishermen. They're caught in a storm so bad, they're absolutely convinced they're going to die. They're totally helpless against the power of nature. And then, with just 3 words, Jesus speaks directly to the storm itself. It's not a prayer, it's not a request, it's a command. Peace, be still. And just like that, the wind and the waves stop. So the crucial point here isn't just, wow, a miracle happened. It's that Jesus showed total power over creation. The analysis argues that he's wielding a type of authority that, in the Old Testament, belongs only to God. He's showing he's Lord over the very elements of the world. Okay, so we've seen authority over creation. From here, the argument escalates. The next section of Mark, as our source sees it, shows Jesus having power over the fundamental laws of life and death itself. A perfect example of this is in chapter 6, when Jesus does something physically impossible. He walks on water. Now, the analysis points out that this isn't just some random magic trick. It's a direct echo of the book of Job, which describes God alone as the one who treadeth upon the waves of the sea. Mark seems to be making a very specific and pretty bold connection here. So all of these incredible events, forgiving sins, calming storms, walking on water, they all build up to this one single pivotal moment in the whole gospel. Jesus finally turns to his disciples and asks them straight up, "After everything you've seen, who do you say that I am?" And Peter gives that famous answer, "You are the Christ." According to the source, this means so much more than just Messiah. It's the moment they recognize him as the long-awaited divine anointed one of God. It's like the light bulb finally flickers on for the disciples. Okay, so if the first half of Mark is all about demonstrating divine power, this next part is about revealing divine glory. The hints and clues become way more direct. And the prime example is the Transfiguration. The analysis describes this as a moment where the curtain of Jesus' normal humanity is just pulled back. For this one brief, stunning moment, Peter, James, and John get a peek at his true, intrinsic, divine glory, what some call the Shekinah glory, the visible presence of God, a light so bright, the text says, no one on earth could ever bleach anything that white. Jesus himself even clarifies his identity in a parable. An owner of a vineyard sends servant after servant, those are the prophets, but they're all rejected and beaten. So finally, he sends his one son, his well-beloved. The point couldn't be clearer. Jesus is putting himself in a totally different category than all the messengers who came before him. He's not just another servant, he is the heir. This all leads us to the final act. And here, the analysis argues, Jesus stops hinting. He stops using parables. He starts making explicit, undeniable claims about his divinity, and these are the claims that lead directly to his death. So now we're at his trial. The high priest, the highest religious authority in the nation, puts the question to him point blank, under oath. Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One? This is it, the moment of truth. His response is just two simple words, I am. And in that context, this is the most direct, unambiguous claim he has made yet. It's a clear yes to being the divine Son of God. For the high priest, that's it. It's the final straw. He rips his robes, yells blasphemy, and for him, the case is closed. The analysis then wraps up with three final proofs that really seal the argument. First, at the very moment of his death, it's not a follower, but a Roman centurion, a total outsider, who looks at him and declares, truly, this man was the Son of God. Second, the empty tomb. The resurrection is the ultimate divine stamp of approval on his identity. And finally, his ascension to sit at the right hand of God shows his return to the eternal glory that he had all along.
So we come all the way back around to our original question, servant or God? And the conclusion of this analysis is that Mark presents a story not of a man who somehow became a god, but of God who willingly became a man in order to serve. The two identities aren't in conflict at all. They are one and the same.
And this one verse from Mark really just captures that whole paradox perfectly. He is the divine Son of Man, yet he came to minister, to serve. The Lord of Glory chose the role of the suffering servant. So the analysis really leaves us with this thought. How does it change the way we read this action gospel if we see every single action not just as the work of a humble servant, but as a glimpse of a great God in disguise?